So you guys loved the ranking of foundations so much that I've decided to do a concealer version. But this time we are going to be talking about what skin type they're best for too. That was something that someone pointed out in the last video that I didn't mention, like what skin type are the foundations best for. And I'm going to do a short for that, so that's going to be out soon. But I am listening to you guys. I have revamped this ranking and I'm really excited to show you these kind of 10 concealers, ranking them all the way up to number 1, which I think is the best one. So let's get started with the first one, which is number 10. So the concealer at number 10 is the Makeup by Mario Surreal Skin Awakening Concealer. The shade that I use, actually there are a few that I use depending on what I feel like I need on my, like what my skin is looking like in terms of color, but currently it is 280. Now this concealer is a good concealer. Like I feel like it really does do what it's meant to do. What it's meant to do is give you that kind of more lift in your skin, like not lift, but like brightening effect to your skin. So it really does kind of give you that more awake look, and that's where the brightening comes in. Now obviously the lift and everything like that all depends on where you actually apply a concealer. So if you apply it along the outer corners, it's obviously going to lift. Any concealer is going to do that as long as it is a little bit brighter than your skin tone. But this concealer, I do really like it, but there's a reason it's at number 10 and not at number 1. And I do feel like I have to really focus on layering if I want some amazing coverage with this. Like I just feel like it's a great concealer, like it really does give me that amazing kind of finish, and I definitely think it's brightening. I just feel like if I want more coverage, which I usually do when I apply this, then I've just got to kind of let it set for a little bit and then reapply it. But that's not a bad thing. Like if you've got time, then that's good. I definitely find it brightening. Like I feel like, I don't know whether there's some kind of like some particles in there or something that kind of a very kind of fine shimmer or something. I don't know what it is, but there's something that really does help to brighten your area. It's also depuffing for the eye area, which I love because I used to suffer with hollow under eye circles, and as I've kind of like gotten older, it's more about the puffy. It's so easy for me to get puffy face, so I just feel like I prefer the depuffing effect now. But yeah, I actually think this is a great concealer. I do think that this suits kind of most skin types. I wouldn't say it's like just like, I wouldn't say there's a skin type that it doesn't suit, because I feel like it's really great for dry skin as well, because it's not drying on the skin. It doesn't set immediately, and you do obviously need to use a powder. I do feel like it's probably a little bit more prone to creasing than other concealers that I've used. Now let me be very clear here, because I fully understand that concealers will crease. It doesn't matter what product you use on your under eyes. If you've got creasing there, which most of us do, whether it be fine lines or deep wrinkles, you're gonna get creasing if you don't set it with powder. There are some concealers, however, that stay so fluid even when you've set it, like it's still so fluid underneath, that it can still end up creasing. And I feel like this does crease a little bit, but I think that all depends on your skin type as well. If you have slightly more, if your skin is more on the oily side, then yeah, you're probably going to get it more with this. But I feel like if your skin is more on the dry side, you're probably less likely to get that creasing. But I do think this is an amazing concealer. I just feel like there are a few things you need to take into consideration with it. So moving on to number 9. Number 9 is One Size Turn Up the Base Butter Silk Concealer. Now my shade is medium 3G, and I find it probably a little bit warm for me. Like I'd probably want to go and revisit the stand just to see, is there anything that's not as warm as this for me? But otherwise I use this every other day. Like I alternate my concealers a lot. It really depends what I feel like, and it depends where I'm going, depends what I'm after, because I do feel like the ones that are right at the front of the chart, like 1, 2, 3, I kind of use those if it's a special event. And I know they're concealers at the end of the day, but I just feel like I don't want to use them as much just so that they last longer. But the other ones I kind of like alternate in between depending on what I want from them, because like I said, they all kind of give me different things, or some of them don't give me certain things, so it really depends. Like this one, I really like when it comes to the texture. I feel like it is exactly what it says. It is like very buttery, very smooth. I do feel like it sets pretty quick, I would say. I do feel like, I know everyone goes on about like, oh my God, you'll get like amazing coverage with this, which is yes, you will. I'll be honest, you do. but I don't feel like you get it like immediately. I do feel like, I don't know if it's the color for me, but maybe like I feel like I need to get it needs to be just a little bit more brighter on my skin, so that might be down to the color for me. Personally, I feel like if you are looking for something that's really gonna stay put, I do feel like this does it, and this definitely does dry a lot better than that Makeup by Mario one, because I feel like this really does kind of like dry up quick and just set quicker. Now I do feel like if you have quite dry skin, it may not be the best concealer for you, because once it does dry, it really does dry. Like, I would suggest really priming the area first. So really using, like, take your primer up under the eye area, not too thick, obviously very thin, just a veil. But I do feel like if you're looking for something that doesn't look so dry on the under eyes, don't use this. So I would suggest this is better for kind of normal to combination, more on the oily side. Not, if you're more on the dry side, I wouldn't use this, because I don't think you're gonna like it, because it's quite, it really does set. So that is number 9. Now moving on to number 8. Number 8 is the YSL All Hours Longwear Concealer. Now my shade is MN1. I just wanna show you, it's like such a big spatula, but it's actually so good. So this concealer, let me just talk through this. There's a couple of things that I wish they did. It's actually such a good concealer when you use this little trick of mine. I think it sets amazing with this. But anyway, first off, let me just talk through the concealer. The concealer is quite fluid. I would say it does give you that kind of natural matte finish. It's not so kind of like, it kind of sets quite well, I would say, and I feel like you can layer it really well too. But I do feel like you need to layer it a few times to get that full coverage, if that's what you're looking for. If you're looking for full coverage, I don't know if this is the one for you, and I do feel like you need to probably layer it up a bit. Now, I would say this is good for most skin types. I feel like if you have kind of more on the drier side, you might see it be a little bit too dry for you, but it's not as bad as the previous one that I spoke about. I do feel like this still stays kind of semi, not dewy, but just healthy looking on the skin. I feel like it's a very fluid concealer. Now, the only thing is I do wish more of it came out on the spatula. It's like hardly any comes out on the spatula. That's the only thing with this. It's such a, like, you can really hear that kind of, you know, when you bring it out. But I do feel like I just want more of it to come out of the packaging, because it's actually such a good concealer. I just want more of it to come out. So I don't know if that's something they can work on. There's a really good technique I use with this concealer, and it works so well. So basically, if you apply this to the back of your hand and then you get a damp beauty blender, spray the damp beauty blender with, in particular, the One Size Until Dawn setting spray, and then go into the concealer, pat, 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 go onto your skin, pat, 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 pat. You're gonna get the most amazing finish. You can thank me later. It stays all day. The coverage is so good. Honestly, you might want to try it with other concealers as well, like something that isn't maybe giving you the coverage that you want, but oh my god, is it amazing. It's a concealer that I feel like the colors are so good, and it doesn't feel heavy on your skin. It doesn't look heavy on your skin, but I feel like you just need to put a little bit of work in to get to that kind of full coverage if that's what you're after. If you have great skin and you're not too concerned about covering dark circles so much, and you just want a concealer which almost feels like second skin, then yes, go for this. I think you're gonna love it. But moving on to the next one. Next, we have the Charlotte Tilbury Beautiful Skin Radiant Concealer, and my shade is, again, I change between different shades, but currently it is 9.5 Tan. Now, this concealer I think is very good, because I feel like it gives you great coverage, but what I really do love about this concealer is it is packed with some amazing ingredients. Now, I'm sure the others are packed with some good ingredients as well, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it is about educating consumers in what is so good about this product, right? So if I am not really, I don't want to have to kind of go and research everything. Like they should do good enough marketing to be able to tell me what's in it. And I feel like with Charlotte Tilbury, they really do, because you always hear these, you see these names popping up like niacinamide, like caffeine, like all these different ingredients. And I feel like maybe some of the other brands don't really focus on throwing those names out there, and I think Charlotte Tilbury do a good job at letting you know what it is that is so good about this product, you know? I'm not saying that the others don't, I'm just saying I am far more educated on what's in this product based on the way that they market their product compared to the others. So this one I would say is good for more or less any skin type. I do feel like it gives you amazing coverage. I do feel like you need to focus on trying to set it. It's not a self-setting concealer. It will take its time to set, but that's if you don't apply any powder. Obviously, I would suggest baking or pressing your powder in with all of these concealers, but this concealer is very good because I do feel like it goes on very smoothly, and I feel like if I compare the consistency from the previous three that I've spoken about, this is slightly thicker in consistency, but it's not like, I wouldn't class it as a thick concealer. Like, it still is quite a fluid concealer, but it doesn't drop basically. Like, I can pull this out and it's gonna stay on the wand, so I can really layer this up if I want to without worrying that the first layer has already dried, so it's going to become all patchy. Like, it's good in that sense. It's very good for layering, and you can use your finger to apply it. I just feel like it's a good concealer. It gives you amazing coverage. It's very brightening. It has some, like I said, good ingredients in here. I think it's good for all skin types. Like, I feel like whether you have dry skin, whether you have oily skin, I feel like this concealer is going to work really well for you because it really does kind of give you the coverage. I would probably say if you have more like skin on more of the oily side, then I would focus more on your setting to make sure that you really are baking to really get it set in place, because obviously the struggle that people with oily skin have is that things can kind of slide off or just not last a lot of the day. So I would suggest making sure that you set correctly in that sense. Like I said, it's a radiant concealer, so it is going to really brighten the area, but over time it claims to actually make your dark circles better. So I don't know how true that is or how much that works, because I haven't used it consistently enough to be able to know that or notice a difference. To be honest, I really do focus on relying on my actual skincare to do those things rather than makeup. I love the fact that makeup have, you know, brands are now infusing skincare into them, which to me, I see that as a way of it not ruining your skin or just less likely to ruin your skin. But I definitely don't rely on that to improve my skin, you know? So I would rely on my skincare for that. I'm old school like that. That's just the way I am. But moving on to the next one. At number 6, we've got the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer, and obviously this was going to be within the ranking because it is a good concealer. But I just feel like, you know what I feel like with this concealer? It is such a good concealer, but it's like, it reminds me every so often that it's good, and it's like, why do you not stay on your mind? It's just so easily forgettable. That's the best way to put it. It's a very forgettable concealer, but it's so good. I don't know if it's because it's like an OG, I don't know what it is, but it is a good concealer. Now my shade is Ginger. I don't know why I feel like ginger is like more or less everyone's shade. I don't know what it is about this concealer, but a lot of people I speak to say their shade is ginger, and they're definitely not my skin shade. So I don't know what's going on there, but it's a good concealer. So this concealer, what is the best way that I can describe it? It goes on very smooth. It's a creamy concealer, so it's not like drippy or anything. It gives you amazing coverage, and I would say this really does give you that radiant finish on the under eyes. I personally think this is a concealer that suits any skin type because I feel like it doesn't dry out, so it's not going to really annoy the people with dry skin, but at the same time it's not so kind of the consistency isn't so drippy or creamy that it is too creamy for people with oily skin. So I feel like this concealer is actually slap bang in the middle, which it kind of is. It's at number 6. That's slap bang in the middle, and I feel like it really does kind of tick every box. But like I said, there are better ones out there, but this one I feel like really does, it appeals to everyone. It's going to give you that really nice radiance on the skin, but it's also going to cover up really well, and it suits every skin tone. It's just a good all-rounder, I would say. So this is a really easy one to do because honestly, I just feel like if you've ever used it, you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. At number 5, we've got the Too Faced Born This Way Multi-Use Sculpting Concealer. Now, my shade is Warm Beige. I absolutely love this concealer. I just feel like this is probably the one concealer that I've used the longest alongside Tarte. It is such a good concealer. Now, what they claim is that it is kind of, you can use it to sculpt, you can use it to highlight, you can use it to conceal. But honestly, I just feel like that's good marketing. Like, all that is, it's very self-explanatory. I feel like you can do that with any concealer. They probably just don't use those words and those sentences. But this concealer is a really, well, firstly, I love, it lasts forever. It's so big, it lasts forever. So this concealer is really easy to get the product out because it's not like, oh, you really can get the product out of this. But I do feel like, I would say this is more of a hybrid concealer because you can use this in, like, you don't have to use foundation with this. It's that type of concealer. The texture, the finish of it is, the kind of consistency of it is such that you can use this as your overall base. Like, I have used this before as concealer and then not had to put foundation on because I can get a brush and blend it all over the face and it gives me the most amazing finish. So I would say if you're looking for something that conceals and works as a foundation, this is a great option for you. I love the coverage that it gives. The colors are amazing. I'm not too sure about the other colors. Like, I just so happen to find a good color for me that's always worked. But this is a really good concealer. The coverage is amazing. Works for any skin type, by the way. I would always say that the way you set your makeup determines how good it's going to be on you. Like, you can adjust the concealer accordingly to your skin type with the setting process. So if you have very dry skin, you know, don't go all in with the powder. If you have very oily skin, maybe you can go all in with the powder. So you can change the way a concealer looks on your skin with your process of setting. Now, this concealer is probably the only concealer out of everything that I'm going to talk about or I have spoken about that I would say can be used without a foundation. So like I said, I just feel like the consistency of it is so good that it's just very easy to use as that. I would 100% recommend setting it though, because I feel like if you don't set it, it's just, you know, look, let's be real, right? A lot of these concealers, and I haven't mentioned this because I don't believe in it. Well, I have yet to be convinced, but nearly all of these concealers will claim on their sites or within their marketing that it is waterproof, sweat proof, transfer resistant. I am very skeptical about that because I just feel like transfer proof, I'm not 100% convinced. There are many amazing brands that I've used that claim to be transfer proof, and then when you do that, you can still see the makeup coming off. So like, I don't know how they test this stuff, really, honestly, but that's why I'm not mentioning it with these, because I just feel like you guys are not, you're not stupid, right? You guys, I don't want to treat you guys like you're stupid. Like, you know, you don't go for a product because it says that it's waterproof or that it's sweat resistant, because nearly every one of these concealers, I would say, says it on the website, but it isn't the case. So just focus on how it looks on your skin, how it blends, and how you set is going to determine whether you can make it as close to waterproof or not, you know? So don't always rely on those things. But anyway, enough of that one. Let's move on to the next one. At number 4 is a fairly new one, to be honest. It's the MAC Studio Radiance 24-Hour Luminous Lift Concealer. Now, my shade, I actually mix a couple together because they sent me a few and they didn't send me the exact shade that I need. My exact shade is probably NC38 or NC35, but they've sent me NC20 and NW35, so I'm having to mix them together at the moment. This is a very good concealer. This is a concealer that works for all skin types. I am so impressed with this concealer because I tried it last week and I've been using it since, and it's very good. So firstly, it definitely does give you that radiance. Like, you're definitely going to get that radiance on wherever you apply it on your skin. It is infused with skincare again, and I don't know if you know of the foundation, the Studio Radiance foundation, which is also very good. That claims to obviously make your skin better over time. Again, you know my thoughts on this, but just letting you know. But it's the same case for this. This will kind of, it says that, they say that it will reduce the appearance of dark circles over time. Again, don't know if that's going to be the case, but all I can talk about is how it wears on the skin. I would say this is great for all skin types. I feel like it's medium coverage and you can build on it though. And I do feel like it is very easy to blend, and I was so surprised at the coverage. So you can build on it, but I don't think you really need to, because I applied it and I was like, as soon as I started blending it, I was like, oh my God, like, this coverage is really good. I wasn't expecting the coverage to be as good as it was. And I don't know if I was like kind of comparing it to the Studio Radiance foundation. I was really, really surprised at the coverage. It's very easy to blend in. I do feel like it takes its time to self-set, but I don't think they really talk about that too much anyway, but I do feel like you can use your powder to obviously set it. Now, I think this is absolutely amazing for dry skin, but if you have quite oily skin, I think that you really need to focus on your baking setting to make sure that you really do get it in place so it stays in place. For all the other skin types, I feel like this is absolutely like perfect. It's such a good concealer. Like, I would highly recommend this because I feel like it surprised me. Like, it doesn't, you know, some concealers when you put it on, it kind of like blends and then becomes a little bit streaky. This is really good. Like, I actually think the coverage is as close to Tarte Shape Tape as I could say, but it isn't as thick. So it's gonna give you a really nice natural finish. And yeah, that's all I can say about that at the moment. It's a very good, for some reason my voice is going, it's a very good concealer, but let's move on to the next. At number 3 is my Tarte Shape Tape. Now, you're probably wondering why this is at number 3 and not number 1, because I love this concealer. I still love it. Nothing has happened to this concealer. It's still amazing. I think it ticks every box. It's not so great for dry skin. It's more for, I would say, anything other than dry skin, because it does self-set. So this concealer really does self-set. The coverage is amazing, and when it does self-set, it can probably, I would say, feel and look a little bit kind of like maybe cakey around the under eye area. I do feel like concealers are getting better and better and better, and it's not that this isn't good anymore, it's just there are brands that are really giving it a run for its money. So I feel like there are other brands that you should really kind of like maybe look at as well if you find Tarte Shape to be a little bit heavy. I've heard from a lot of people that they find Tarte Shape Tape to be too cakey, too thick, and it enhances lines and stuff like that, and that's why there are others that are ahead of it, which I will explain when we get to that. But the Tarte Shape Tape concealer gives you amazing coverage, sets, stays in place. I don't ever have a problem with it going anywhere. It will always stay matte. Once I've set it, and I set it by baking, so I press the powder in and then I dust it off immediately. I know I can rely, this is a very reliable concealer for me, but that's because it works on my skin type really well. So I have combination skin, and I have areas which are probably a little bit more drier and areas that are a little bit more oily, and then some parts that are just completely normal. So I would say my under eye is kind of normal, and I feel like it works really well for me. So it's really a case of like whether something works for you. It's quite a thick concealer, I would say. It's not something that is going to give you a supernatural finish, in all honesty, but you've really got to think about what you want out of a concealer. So I know a lot of people who prefer a natural finish don't like that concealer, but I know people who wear kind of more on the full coverage side, or just need that full coverage because they have severe dark circles or things like that. They really like this concealer. So like I said, not the greatest for dry skin, so I wouldn't recommend it. Or if you don't want that, if you don't want any, you know, you don't want that heavy look, then you're not going to like this concealer. I personally think it's an amazing concealer. I just think that it's something I can rely on if I'm doing a full glam. This isn't my day-to-day concealer, by the way. This is like my full glam when I know I'm going out for the evening, or I've got a really important day full of shoots and something like that where I'm in front of the camera. I will use my Tarte Shape Tape because I can always rely on it to stay looking fresh the entire day and staying matte. That's what I would opt for. That's what I would opt for in this case. Next, we have the Guerlain Terracotta Concealer. Now, my shade is 2.5N, and this is a great concealer. This is like, I didn't think I was gonna like this as much as I do. I definitely did not think I was gonna use this as much as I do. So this is a very kind of natural looking concealer. Now the only thing is it like, you've really got to slowly bring this out because otherwise it can kind of go everywhere, but it's such a good concealer. It is a kind of, I would say medium coverage, but you can build on it, I think, but it gives you a really natural finish to your skin. So it doesn't look cakey. I think this suits any skin type, by the way. You might want to just read into it if you have oily skin, because it does have a bit of argan oil in there, and that's what makes it so creamy and so easy to blend as well. They state very good for your skin in general. I feel like this is my kind of favorite for daytime. I have started loving it so much that I'm kind of not using it so much in the daytime because I'm saving it alongside like the others at the front of my ranking, just to kind of wear on special occasions because I do love it that much. I do feel like it's easy to build on. It doesn't look cakey on the skin. I've not had any issues with creasing or anything like that. I do feel like when you set it properly again, that makes the world of difference. It's very easy to blend into the skin, and I feel like it does set eventually. Like, it doesn't take too long. It's kind of, I would say it takes a medium amount of time to set. It's not like something where you need to leave it for a long time or something that, you know, sets immediately. I do feel like you get a kind of blurred finish with it. It really does blur imperfections. It feels ultra light on the skin. There's something about this that just feels light as air on the skin. I don't know what it is. Now, what they claim is that it gives you the blurring effect of a powder, but it is obviously a concealer. I don't know what that fully means, I'm gonna be honest, but I really love how this blends in. I feel like this is one of the best out of all of them when it comes to blending. It is so good. But that is my thoughts on this concealer. It is such a good concealer. Like, as I said, a lot of them claim to be transfer resistant. I'm not even going to go into that because I just don't know. I feel like I think more or less every brand will test on something like 25 women. And it's like, so you're basing the fact that these 25 women cover every skin type, every skin tone. Like, it just doesn't work, right? So that's why I always am a bit kind of hesitant when it comes to believing claims that in terms of transfer resistant, sweat proof, waterproof, all that kind of stuff. So I would just honestly look into this because I think you're gonna love this concealer. This concealer is just so good. I'm just so glad that there's something from Guerlain, and I love Guerlain makeup, but I'm so glad there's something when it comes to base that I can really use, because I do love Guerlain makeup, but I've never found something in terms of concealer or foundation that I absolutely love. So I'm really, really excited about that concealer. Moving on to number one, which is my Hourglass Vanish Concealer. Now, my shade is Beach, which is a little bit light for me, but sometimes I use Dune and I mix them together because Dune is a little bit warmer. But this is my number one at the moment. Again, it does change every so often, but this one I think is something that a lot of people use. It's ultra creamy. It's amazing for dry skin. Amazing for dry skin, or if you have mature skin. Now, I feel like when you say mature skin, I don't think that is really categorized by age, because some people can, you know, have skin which doesn't really look so mature, but they are maybe in their like 50s, 60s, 70s, but maybe their skin looks a lot younger. I'm in my 40s, and I know a lot of people in their 40s who class themselves as having mature skin, but I don't think that is the case for, to be honest, anyone in their 40s really. I feel like you have mature skin when you start to see deep set wrinkles, when you're getting that kind of dehydration in the skin, when the skin is becoming drier. It's when you see those signs that you know that you have mature skin. Do you see what I mean? It's not really an age thing, to be honest. I do think that if you have mature skin, you are gonna love this concealer. It does give you the most amazing coverage. So I feel like if you do have mature skin, you want to be a little bit light-handed with it. And I do feel like it's like it's just very easy to blend in. And I feel like you can choose what way you want to blend it. If you want to use a sponge and pat and blend it, you're going to get an amazing, like full, like amazing coverage, depending on how much you use. If you want to get a brush and really kind of like, you know, like move the brush back and forth to really get that kind of nice blend. You're going to love it that way. I feel like you are going to get amazing coverage with this no matter what. I don't feel like you even need to build it because I feel like with a little bit you get amazing coverage. It's super easy to blend, like I said, stays put. Again, that's all really down to how you set it as well. I do feel like this doesn't dry up on your skin, and that's another reason I love it, is it doesn't become cakey, it doesn't become dry and cracky and doesn't look heavy on the skin. It does keep your skin looking kind of like, I would say, healthy looking. So that is a reason why it is at number 1 for me at the moment. But I do feel like, you know, I have ranked these from 10 to 1, but I honestly feel like the top 4 are like very in the same place for me. So it just depends on what I'm looking for out of a concealer. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, I've done it this way, but hopefully you can understand the top 4 or 5, I would say, are my go-to concealers currently. The one that I use the most at the moment, I've put at number 1, but honestly, it really depends on what I'm looking for out of a concealer. So hopefully that has answered your questions when it comes to concealers. Hopefully this has also been a bit more kind of more informative for you in terms of like your skin type and how it works on your skin. And I really do hope that if you were thinking of using a concealer out of these, then this has given you a better idea on which one to go for or what to try. If you have any questions, let me know. Don't forget, I do have an online publication called the Beauty Breakfast Club, which is an online community that we're creating, growing rapidly, and I love it. It's all about beauty, health, self, a bit of everything. There are newsletters that I write personally that go out every week. We have 3 a week. There are 2 options of subscription. One is free, which gives you access to most of the site. The other is paid, which costs you the equivalent of just a coffee a month, and you get so much for it, way more than you would get in a coffee cup. You get access to the entire site, you get an extra newsletter every week, and you get a chat room where we can actually chat, so me, you, and all the other paid subscribers, and that is the community that we're building. It is amazing there. We're chatting, we're talking about all things, and I learn a lot from you guys too, so it really does help me to kind of like decide what kind of videos to do. So I'd love to see you over there. Please show some support. I would really appreciate it. I also have another YouTube channel, which is a mix of podcasts and vlogs. The vlogs are by me and the podcast is hosted by myself and my husband, all about relatable stuff, marriage, everything. You might want to see it. I think you're going to have a bit of a laugh too. But if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell button so that you don't miss any of my future videos. Until the next video, take care and I'll see you soon.